Hello. Hi there. Welcome to December. It's December.
We finally made it.
It's here. The last month of the year. This is your December 4Thought. Thanks for clicking and taking the time to watch. First off, let's address why we're dressed like this. Maybe we're always dressed like this when we see. Maybe are we always this casual? I don't think we're always this casual. This is Lauren's normal attire for any lawn work or client meetings, etc.
That's right. If you were driving through my neighborhood last week, you saw me blowing leaves wearing this outfit.
Yeah, these buttons are fantastic. You probably can't catch that in the video. They look great. We're dressed casually because we just came from donating our time this morning to a worthy cause here.
Yeah, local charity downtown.
Yeah, right by our office, and we do so fairly regularly as an organization. A few of us do that, and it's great every time I go. I feel good every time I go.
Yeah,
gives you some perspective on what we enjoy, what we have, and not everyone has, and maybe giving back. It's the spirit of the season that we're in, and in that spirit, we had written. You'll check out our written newsletter, I'm sure, about charitable giving and ways to do that make sense for you.
Yeah, it's just like Nathan said. I think we do this about 4 times a year, and every time I do it, I realize that I'm probably not doing it enough. I'm probably not giving back as much as I should, and maybe this time of year has you thinking the same thing. So we wrote about a bunch of ways that we can help you give back when it comes to your plan and your portfolio. So we talked about donor advised funds, or as Nathan calls them.
We call them DAFs.
We talked about highly appreciated stock. We talked about bunching, and we talked about QCDs, which is
qualified charitable donation.
That time you got it. So, for donor advised funds or DAFs, I know you've had some experience with that.
Yes,
so maybe you can kind of give a little overview, and then if it's okay, maybe I'll share like a little personal anecdote.
Yes.
Add a little flavor in here.
Sure. So a donor advised fund, very popular with a lot of clients, and for many reasons. So first off, gives you flexibility. So let's say you have an organization, you have a cause you want to donate money to, or you don't know exactly who you want to donate to.
That's right. You want to give back, but you're not exactly sure who that's going to be, and that could change over the years as the fund lives on and on.
Right. So you're going to donate to a donor advised fund, an account, if you will, and it's something that can be invested and will continue to grow over time, and allows you the flexibility to choose who you want to eventually donate funds out of that fund to. And that could be, a multitude of organizations. It could be one, but it gives you time and flexibility in order to determine that. But you will get any tax benefit associated with the donation when you make the donation to the DAF in that year, even though you're not making the final destination, donations to the organizations, which can be made years in the future.
Yeah. So my personal example is, so my mom's brother, so my uncle was killed by a drunk driver when he was 16. So my mom's mother, my grandmother, started donating to the local church, and she wanted that donation to buy the church's Bibles and have it in there that it's in memory of Dennis. So that continued on during my grandmother's life, and then when my grandmother passed away, my mother took that over. And then as my mother's gotten older, we had the conversation that, hey, why don't we put together a fund, and I invest a lump sum of money into that fund, and then forever and ever, or in perpetuity, the church will get those donations every year. And of course, you can designate in the DAF, I only want those monies to go for new Bibles. Or you can designate it that it can go for whatever the church needs it for, but specifically include Bible purchases as needed.
Right.
So just like Nathan said, lots of flexibility. My circumstance, it's one organization, but it can be different organizations. They can change over time.
Any nonprofit, any 501c3 organization that you feel like that's a cause I want to be involved with, I want to support. You put money in the DAF, and then you direct the DAF to make the donations to that charity, to that organization.
Yep. And my mom did it with cash, but you can also do it with highly appreciated stock. And I know you have a lot of experience working with clients that have highly appreciated stock.
Well, you'll have scenarios over time, as investors do. You'll have certain positions that have greatly appreciated over time, and you have a cause that's important to you that you want to donate money to. So How do you best do that? Well, you could easily liquidate the stock.
Then you're going to pay
give them
tax.
cash, right? But then you're going to pay tax, and then the organization is going to receive
Much less than if you were able to give them the stock
the
itself.
stock itself. And so you could give them the stock directly, and by that you're avoiding any tax liability that you would create by converting it to cash. And they're going to get more of that. And obviously they're a nonprofit; they don't deal with the same tax issues that you and I deal with, and all of you out there watching this deal with. So that's a much more efficient way to do it. You can also fund a DAF with securities that are highly appreciated. So take those securities, fund the DAF with those, and then allow that DAF to then reinvest those securities, obviously make the liquidations, reinvest that in a portfolio that's going to have whatever objective that you want it to have, maybe similar to what you're investing in your long-term portfolios.
Yeah, and this kind of ties into a donor advised fund is bunching. So we've had clients over the years, maybe you have personal experience doing this where, during the holiday season, you write out a check to a bunch of local charities, and those are probably impactful to those charities, and you're doing them every year. But if you had the ability to bunch all those together in 1 year, so you said, okay, maybe over a 5-year time frame, I'm giving away $100,000. So if I just did that all in 1 year, maybe that's enough money to offset my standard deduction, so I actually get a tax deduction for that. And you're allowed to do that, so you can bunch multiple years of donations together so you can offset that.
Right.
And we're talking about these things in kind of broad strokes because we'd always want to talk to you and your tax preparer. We'd always recommend that you speak to a tax expert. So we don't give tax advice, we don't prepare taxes, but we want to work with the people in your life that help you do that so we can maximize the impact you make.
And oftentimes your tax pro can be fantastic, but maybe they're not giving the strategies like maybe we would be able to input, but we want to always verify those strategies and say, hey, this is what we're thinking for our client. Does this make sense in context of their tax? And then they'll give us the thumbs up, and then we can implement those strategies.
Yeah, and I think, again, that's another great, you must have done this before because that's a perfect segue into qualified charitable distributions.
Yep.
So just a quick recap. We talked about donor advised funds.
DAFs.
We talked about highly appreciated stock.
That's true.
We talked about bunching.
Mm-hmm.
So qualified charitable distributions are related to IRA accounts.
Right, so you have an IRA account. It appreciates over time. If it's pre-tax money and it's appreciating over time, eventually you're going to have a distribution from that. That distribution is where the taxes come into play.
Yeah.
And you're going to get to a certain attained age where you're going to have required distributions. And when you take those distributions, many of you use them. Obviously, a lot of clients use those distributions to live on.
Yeah, to meet your goals and objectives, you have that distribution, but maybe a part of that goal and objective, like we talked about, is to give back to an organization that's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, the government allows you the ability to...
You can give that directly to the organization and avoid paying the tax on that part of your distribution. So if you said $100,000, I think now it's 105. I think it's going to be adjusted over time. But let's say you have a large required amount that you don't need all of, or that you're already inclined to give away a certain portion.
Right, because 105 is the maximum. It doesn't mean you have to give that much away.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So it doesn't have to be that much. But that's how much you're allowed to fill up if you wanted to. So you could say, well, I'm going to have X amount in a required minimum distribution. I know that I don't need all of that, and I'm already thinking of donating a certain amount to a charity, to an organization, etc. We'll do that from your IRA distribution and make it a qualified charitable distribution.
It's very, very similar to what we talked about. You were going to make that charitable contribution anyway. You were going to take it out of cash in your account and send it to the organization. This could possibly be a much more tax efficient way to do it. Mm-hmm. And then we don't want to get too much in the weeds, but another reason we want you to consult with a tax expert and work with them to figure that out. But sometimes when you're in distribution mode in retirement, you may not have as many write-offs. Mm-hmm. So there's a potential that when you receive that required minimum distribution, you could be in a higher tax bracket. So you don't need that money and you're paying more tax on it. That's not a win-win.
Right.
That's not what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah. But a win-win would be you don't need that, and you're already wanting to, you've already earmarked a certain amount of money that you said you want to give in a certain year. So that's a way to do it, and then avoid paying tax on that portion of the distribution for that year.
Yeah. So again,
and you can do it every year.
You can do it every year.
Yeah.
That's right. So again, qualified charitable distributions, bunching, highly appreciated stock, donor advised funds.
Got it.
So we wanted to cover as much as we could in the article without making it overwhelming. So what we always say is these are really there for you to think about, for thought. And if you have questions, or if there's you or somebody you know is talking about these kind of things, feel free to use us as a resource. Just like we wanted to give back to those people in our community today, we want to continue to give back to people in your community as well. So thanks again, as always. Like Nathan said in the beginning, we very much appreciate you watching all the videos and reading all the articles. Wink, I know nobody has the time to do it all. So thanks for the time that you do give us.
Yep. Thank you very much. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and yours.